Hello, I'm Terrydavidmulligan. I'm the host producer of Mulligan Stew and the Mulligan Stew podcast and the Terry David Mulligan YouTube channel. That's just the way it laid out. Couldn't do much about it. We could have called it something else, but we had the name. We might as well run with it. I'll stop apologizing now. All right, this is our interview with a good friend of mine, Jim Cuddy from the Jim Cuddy Band and Blue Rodeo. We may take him for granted because he's been around for, Blue Rodeo for 40 years. But I never get tired of talking to him. He's a master storyteller. He's an incredible guy. Does a lot for his country, for himself, for his family, and music in Canada. So this interview is with Jim. Tonight, Saturday, the 23rd, he's at the National Arts Centre in Ottawa. And then next Tuesday, Wednesday, he's at Massey Hall headlining with the Jim Cuddy Band. That's a big, big deal. As he says in the interview, he thinks he's now made a name for himself with his solo audience as opposed to Blue Rodeo. They may come because they know him from Blue Rodeo, but his music is quite different from Blue Rodeo, and he has found an audience for that, and they have found him. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Blue Rodeo documentary, which debuts at the Whistler Film Festival December the 6th and 8th. And then I think he said will actually debut to our screens in early February. I think that's what he said. He says it in the interview. So I'm going to have a conversation with my friend Jim. I do hope you enjoy this. We cover a lot of ground here, and he's very open about it. I hope you enjoy this conversation with Jim Cuddy. I'm Terrydavidmulligan. This is Mulligan Stew, CKUA Radio. He's right there. That guy right there is Jim Cuddy from the Jim Cuddy Band and Blue Rodeo. Let me see those gnarly fingers again. Let me see your guitar. No, the other.
Look at that small hand. All right,
the callus.
It's a tiny little hand. Oh yeah, it's definitely callous. But I struggle with these little hands. I watch Colin play, or I watch my sons play, and their hands are gigantic. Easy for them. No wonder they can play so well. It's easy.
Is the crippler there?
He's just over there.
Wow, what a guy! You're lucky to have found each other. And you're on the road with a large ensemble. What is it?
Well, the whole band. So we are a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right. So we have keyboards is Steve O'Connor, drums is Joel Anderson, Colin Cripps on guitar and vocals and many things, and Lindsay singing and playing violin, myself, and Basil Donovan, of course.
Do you limit the amount of guitars that Colin can bring? Is it in his contract?
He just asked me if I limited the number of guitars that you can bring. He says, yeah, but he has a full rack of guitars, okay?
Now,
so yes and no.
Remember, just as an aside, I can remember you loading a bus in Kelowna or Penticton when you were on the road with Blue Rodeo with a big, big smile on your face because you were loading wine into the bottom of that bus. do you still have that sort of luxury? Can you?
Of course.
All right.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, I don't think that there's as much wine, certainly not as much wine being consumed on the road, because generally nobody really drinks after performance. We drink on days off and the night before day off. So there's not nearly as much, but we still are accumulating, still picking up wine in Calgary at Metrovino or along the road. And and we still have clever ways of getting it home.
I'm quite, normally I don't have time to actually really study a tour date on a sheet or whatever, but All the World Fades Away,
That's busy.
Your album we've talked about previously, but the tour, very interesting how you've done this. You started at Tawes in Vineland.
I do. It's funny. You're saying it like it's an unusual thing.
No, I figured I'd start anywhere.
I do.
Wouldn't you start there?
I do Tawes as an annual event on the solstice in June. And yes, the record had just come out, I think, on the 14th, and we did it that weekend. And I also did Jackson Triggs at the end of the summer which is a beautiful amphitheater. They're both beautiful shows. I mean, time in Niagara is well spent. It's beautiful down there.
So tonight you're playing in Parksville at Knox United. I've driven by it. I've not walked into Knox United, but it must have great acoustics.
It's going to be a bit of a challenge because we are sort of set up to play larger places,
Yep.
but it'll be it's very beautiful. There's a big cross behind us. I don't know how I feel about that, but it is an active church. It's a working church, and they're very, very nice here. And they want all sorts of stuff. I mean, we're kind of in the children's section, so there's a daycare here. If you go into the bathroom, the sinks are down at about 2 feet, and you have to lean way over, right? And they had a Tai Chi class going earlier, and there's a woman here named Karen, and I think that her mission is to create programs that will bring revenue in and stabilize the church. So
Sure.
the concerts, apparently she does 30 or 40 concerts a year.
It does, yes.
And that's pretty amazing. And it's a beautiful place to be. It's just north of Nanaimo, so it's not off the beaten track. So it's good.
Maybe better for the Cuddy Trio.
I think it's going to be good for the whole band. You know, I
Okay.
think the band makes a lot of music, and we can make it at different volumes. I don't think that's a challenge we've already done. Our record party was at the new Hughes Room in Toronto, which is and it's a big ceilinged one, and it was about the same, about 400 people. So yeah, we can do it. Listen, if you ask a drummer, Joel's a wonderful guy, but drummers are all the same. Say to drum. Now tonight we might have to adjust a little bit because it's going to be a little quiet. I can do it. I know how to play quietly. Don't tell me what to do. It's because he knows I'm on the verge of suggesting we take away a few drums, and they don't want that.
Is there an organ in the building?
I don't know. There's a grand piano.
Okay, fine. That's all you need. Okay.
Yeah.
I made a comment on the air to the CKUA audience, and that was whether you see him at Bose in Red Deer or Massey Hall, you got to go see this band.
Oh, that's nice. Thanks.
I mean, Bose is going to be a small club, and Massey Hall is going to be Massey Hall.
Yeah. And you know what? I don't think I've been contracted to play a bar for 20 years. And Bose was really fun. Generally when you play a bar, you think, okay, that we're going to lose the lower, quieter part of our dynamic.
Sure.
Because people are drinking and they're going to be loud.
Yep.
And this bar, which is quite a large bar, they were great. Like if I wanted them to get zipped up, they would. There was dancing. There were people at the front. I could tell a story. It was quiet. And also, have you been to Bose?
No.
The walls in the dressing room, everyone has played there. Yeah. I mean, it's spectacular. You just see everybody's name on there. So I was pretty happy to join the legions of artists that have played the bar.
Conversely, said the clever interviewer,
right.
The 23rd at the National Arts Center and the 27th at Massey Hall. Those rooms change the dynamic yet again. And how so? You can't walk in there and pretend that it's Bose. It's just Massey Hall and the National Arts Center, right? It's different.
No, of course. But I would say that the majority of the tour has been more like Massey Hall and NAC, not necessarily as big. Last night we played McPherson Playhouse and we played the Orpheum the night before. So that's what the whole tour is geared towards that in terms of sound equipment and in terms of what our set is doing. But I wanted to play rooms that I could talk in, I could tell stories in. Yep. And Bose was the only one I thought, oh boy, what's this going to be like? And it turned out to be perfectly fine. I don't know what that noise is.
I'll leave it with you. December the 1st in Brantford, Ontario. Then just one thing, any Christmas shows?
I don't think so. Blue Rodeo will do a couple between Christmas and New Year's. We used to do the night before New Year's. We used to do things closer, but honestly, we will have worked so much by the time, because not only do we finish this tour, but then luckily, this Blue Rodeo documentary that we've done is having its debut at the Whistler Film Fest. So we're going to be at Whistler, and then we'll come back. And I mean, it doesn't end till it has to end at some point. And so it's sort of like the middle of December, and it'll be till after Christmas. So no Christmas show. Sorry. That was a long answer to a short question. Sorry.
Are we going to did you like the documentary?
I thought the documentary was really interesting, and it was nerve-wracking because I think that we committed to being as honest as we could be. And that involved revealing certain hidden or at least obscured parts of our history. And we talked about them. And, the funny bit is trying to reconcile all the dates and everybody remembering the same things. But the difficult part is the fractured part of our history and how honest we were about that. And so it was a little bit uncomfortable doing a lot of the interviews, but I'm also glad that the story's told, and also that I don't have to tell it again, because some of it's a little painful.
Yeah. I did an interview this morning with the directors of a documentary called Sugarcane, which just won the Critics' Choice Awards. They were nominated for 8, and it won the Sundance Grand Prize. It's about the reserve outside of Williams Lake.
Oh.
And about the residential school there and the residential school in Kamloops. Story that had to be told.
Yeah.
And must be seen. And so my mind this morning was all about documentary at 8 in the morning. However, the name Sugarcane begs to be a title, begs to be a title of a song. Absolutely, positively. I'll leave that with you.
I've been, this leads me to something. So I've been doing some small in-person things at Indigo Books across the country,
yes,
where people buy an album, and then I do a song and we talk, and then I do a song, we talk, I do a song, and then I sign the records. And somebody said to me, this is the first time they've done it. Mostly they're asking questions and making comments, but she said, I have a suggestion for you. And of course, as soon as she said that, I could feel myself go, And she said, I think you should write a song. And I said, okay, hold it just a sec. I want you to know that every single songwriter in the world and in history, whatever follows, I think you should write a song about, will never, ever get written. Because all songwriters take umbrage to being told what to write about. And so all of a sudden you'll put a red flag on that particular. Now you only suggested a title, and
That's
it's
right.
attached to a
That's right.
very heavy subject that certainly requires some art to keep full awareness. So that's not quite the same.
I didn't intend to do that. It just popped out, but first of all, I love the name that they call it Sugarcane.
Yeah.
Then you follow the storyline. And speaking of the book signing tour, it was a record signing tour. And a couple of songs. It's another way to travel. It's another way to reach out. It's another way to build that community. It's really cool. Was it had to be planned out well?
Well, Indigo has planned it out really well. They were the one that suggested it.
Yeah, okay.
I clearly wanted to, these songs have stories attached, and I wanted to be able to tell the stories. I did them on Spotify to begin with, and so this was a way of doing it. But what's the benefit of it has not just me speaking. I do 3 stories, 3 songs, but I hear other people speaking, and I don't truly. I mean, as many people as we meet, we don't really get to hear them speak. We shake hands and we take a picture and we move on, and then we perform for them.
Yep.
But this one, people are standing up and they're telling me things about themselves. They're asking questions, or they're just making a comment. They'll come up afterwards. They'll tell me something from their life that's attached to a song they heard. So it's been very fulfilling to do it. And Indigo's been totally on board.
Good.
Like they they got it all.
Yeah,
They've got
you
a
need,
system.
you need help. You got enough on your plate without having to worry about all of that. So
Oh
there's,
yeah.
let me go back one step, please, to the documentary. Does it cover the whole career? Does it cover an album? Does it? What's the breadth of it?
It covers the whole career, but it really focuses on Greg and myself. So our journey through New York, etc. It is inevitable with a 90-minute documentary that certain aspects of the band are going to be short shifted, and so it really just follows Greg and Basil, of course, through starting the band, what came before, and where we are now, and all the ups and downs. It was kind of funny because we did intensive interviews, hours and hours of interviews. I mean, I think Basil did 2 4-hour interviews. Greg, of course, long. And they said to me at the start of my interview, well, the other guys were talking about all the ups and downs of the band. And I said, I don't know what ups and downs. We've got a pretty steady trajectory. And then they started to mention things, right?
Yes.
And I thought, what is the matter with me? What have I done?
Yeah.
I have smoothed out the bumps. I've pretended to myself that none of this other stuff happened.
Yeah.
And so there was a bit of a reckoning for me to be more to accept all the things that have happened.
Did I make the final cut? Come on.
I honestly, I don't know. I don't remember. I'm sure if it was up to me, you would, but I honestly don't remember. I'm sure you did. Were you intense? Was it a long interview you did?
No, I did no interviews.
Oh, you did no interviews.
Nothing.
Okay,
No,
so
nobody approached me. I thought maybe I
tricked me.
walked through a shot somewhere. Never mind.
There's a lot of that. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Some people being short-shifted is that it's impossible to gather together all the people that we needed to gather. No, you started this. You opened this door. And I think that's members of the band have felt like their story wasn't told, because they've been contributors for a long time. And so I don't think you could make a documentary without people feeling like their contribution was not diminished. And I recognize that as true. So
here's how I identify with that, my friend.
Okay.
I appear nowhere in the Much Music documentary.
That's weird, but that's weird. I remember you told me that. I was like, well, that's just doesn't make sense. So it doesn't make sense. You've been a huge contributor and a huge part of the character of it. So I don't understand. But I think that there was a lot of criticism about the Much documentary. So I think you're probably in good company. Speaking of that, I've seen Eric Ham a number of times this summer.
Oh,
because I do a concert up around where she has a cottage. It's always nice to see her. She's so like a wonderful, wonderful woman.
You were on stage at the Orpheum Theater, were you not, a couple of nights ago?
2 nights ago, yes.
Did you sing Impossible?
Yes, of course. Yep. Yes, I did.
How did it
feel? It feels very meaningful because I had done an Indigo one in the afternoon or at noon, and so often what happens when I sing that song, because it's about children who struggle and are homeless, often people come up to me and tell me just briefly with tears in their eyes about their own. And it is impossible. Now, that's stupid. I didn't mean that. You cannot possibly judge or guess who is going to be affected. There's no socioeconomic factors about which children will suffer. Yeah. And so it's moving for me. And I'm not entirely over it by the time I go to do the concert. And so, it means something to me to be playing that for people.
I just finally, thank you for that. I appreciate it very much. I just finally had a chance to look around your room there. It looks like you're in a veterinary clinic and you just brought your dog in.
Well, we're in the church, and okay. I had to do something online this morning, and I was in the library. So the library, I told the person I was talking to, all I'm looking at is books about death, grieving, spirituality, and God. That was the whole shelving unit in front of me.
Were you ever? Oh, here's a question as an aside. I don't think I've ever asked you this. Have you been, or are you now spiritually religious? Did you have an upbringing like that?
I didn't really have that upbringing, although obviously my parents were both, I mean, we had much more to do with my mother's parents. They were church people, but they were united and they were farm people. And so it was very practical level of religion, said grace, of course, but we maybe went to Sunday school till we were 6 or 7. And then it was pretty much everybody was on their own. So, it's funny. I recognize and accept everybody's need for spirituality. I think a lot of my spirituality has come from psychedelics and Don Juan. Reading the Carlos Castaneda's books and taking those trips and recognizing there was something well outside of my everyday consciousness. And so I would never discount or discredit anybody's belief, but I don't have a formal connection to an organized religion. And in fact, somebody just gave me this book, God is Not Great, by Christopher Hitchens. Christopher Hitchens.
Maybe you can leave it with the library there.
Oh, I got to read that. I don't. It would probably start to smoke.
So let me get this right. 8 provinces in 6 months. You're heading home, going to be back on the right end of the country for Christmas and holidays and whatever.
Yeah, that's true. But you also have highlighted something that is a regret. I regret that we didn't get PEI, and I always regret that we didn't get Newfoundland. We will figure out Newfoundland. I don't know that we'll figure out PEI, but we'll try. And I've had nothing but PEI artists around me for the Jen Grant, Rose Cousins, Stuart Travel that does all the cruises we're doing. It's all PEI. So it's like slapping me every day.
Can I ask you you're dealing with 2024, but because you guys do plan a year, 6 months ahead, what's 2025 look like? What's the business look like?
2025 is important for Blue Rodeo because that's the 40th anniversary of the band. And so there's a lot of things on the burner. We'll do some touring. We have obviously the documentary. We have some really special things, some releases, some special things that we're dealing with as we speak. Yeah, like so much about it I can't talk about, but it's going to be pretty.
Why can't you talk about it? What's the problem?
Well, because I'd be blowing the surprise, right? And so obviously, look, here's what I think.
Oh, come on.
This is not about me. So did you see the Celine Dion documentary?
Yes.
It was amazing, right?
It was amazing.
Incredible. Showed you what an incredible, perhaps the greatest singer we've ever produced.
Exactly.
At the end of that documentary, were you left with the impression she would never sing again?
Yeah.
So when she sang at the Olympics, were you surprised?
Oh man, it was such an emotional moment.
Okay. So you realize, because you've been in this business, that when they put that documentary out, they knew she was going to be singing at the Olympics. And they knew that they would leave everyone with this impression that that poor woman would never sing again. So that the impact of her coming out of the Eiffel Tower would have so much impact, be so powerful. So in our own little way, not like on the Eiffel Tower with Celine Dion, we're just trying to keep a few things in their wrapping for a surprise.
Well, thank you for that. Now I have to go find it. Are people liking your new music? Are they choosing their songs the way they would for Blue Rodeo? Have you found another audience?
I think that what I've done is consolidated an audience for myself. Sure. I think a lot of the people that come are obviously Blue Rodeo fans, yeah. And that's a different kind of concert. What I think is been successful with this tour is creating a level of communication between the audience and myself. And I think that people are appreciating that. I think they're appreciating the record as a different, not necessarily a party record. It's a more contemplation record. And I think that I feel sometimes when I'm on stage that I have accomplished what took me 26 years to accomplish, which was create a character for myself,
Yeah.
and outside of Blue Rodeo, and that feels good. And sometimes it feels kind of overwhelming. Like to have done it twice is
one
is,
song,
is
one
pretty
song,
pretty rare.
one song at a time, one gig at a time.
Mm.
That's the only way.
That's been our modus operandi for sure. One person at a time.
Right then. I should know, by the way, last thing about the documentary. When does it actually physically come out? When will we see it on screens, or how's it going to roll out?
I think that after the film festival, I think that the first airing and then all airings will be February 1st.
Okay.
I think that's one that's happening.
Okay. Thanks for this. Any surprises? Anything you want to surprise us with? Anything you?
No, I don't. I think I've been talking so much about myself in the last 4 months. I've gotta pull it back at some point. I did try a wine from the Canary Islands last night, which is the first time. What is it? Luton Negra? Luton Negra. First time I've ever tried that grape. First time I've ever tried that wine. It was very interesting. It is almost impossible to characterize. It was very sharp. It was very light, but it had some unique flavors. And I was wondering if there would be a food that would really enhance it. But have you ever tried a wine from the Canary Islands?
I have not tried a wine from the Canary Islands.
Yeah.
I'd like to be there to try Canary Islands wine.
Of course.
And of course, what we hear now about wine is that the generations to follow us are not terribly interested in wine.
Yeah, I listen. I think that the generations that follow us are not particularly interested in drinking. I was hearing podcasts that say that now, daily use of cannabis has far exceeded daily use of alcohol. And I certainly know with my kids' friends that they're not as into drinking. There's nothing to discover about drinking for them. They're already open, and they're already they don't need any of the can opener element of the psychological can opener of wine. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, you're about to say something.
Two things. Just two things. One is it'll be the Grammys, and secondly, when you and Greg were on, and we had a great discussion. It was a great interview. And he was. I asked him about the songwriting, getting the Songwriter Hall of Fame. He kind of distant. Yeah, it's no big deal. I think you remember. But then from all discussions and from video that I've seen, apparently he was just over the moon.
I think that Greg was actually overwhelmed. I think that it was. I think that it was something. I'm going to put words in his mouth, but I think that it was something he would never have expected in his life, and it seemed like a supreme accomplishment. Yeah. And so he was. The next day, he said, "You got to fill me in on all the things that happened. It's just a blank to me." And I think that he was so hyped up about it, and beautiful to watch his songs be performed. I mean, it was overwhelming. It was overwhelming to watch your songs being performed by other people and realize that they completely have a life of their own. They are not yours anymore. It was. Yes, the sense of accomplishment was kind of brought tears to your eyes. But Greg, he's wears his emotions very close to the surface. So he was just dazed by the end of the night. So yes, it meant a lot to him.
I was thinking about you guys. Listen, I was just looking at the Grammy nominations this year under. Do you identify with roots or Americana or folk?
Oh, I think probably more roots and Americana would be. I like folk, but
okay. Roots, American roots. Mark Knopfler, Sam Beam, Aoife O'Donovan, Sarah Fierro, John Hann, Shamika Copeland. Americana album, T-Bone Burnett. That's nice. Closer, right? Charlie Crockett. Maggie Rose. I'm trying to find artists that I can identify with as I go through it. Same thing with the Junos. Most of it I can't, but you guys I can follow. It's just you're my through line. That's what you are.
Well, that's very nice. But I think that we're back to, when we started, we didn't really fit in, and we're kind of back there again. I mean, I trust you saw the Grammy nominations for Country Album of the Year.
Yes.
And it's pretty funny. I mean, that's completely transformational.
Yeah.
Because has nothing to do with anything, the history of country. That's a new form. So, which is cool, but it's not traditional. So, I think we're back there again, which is fine. I think there's a lot of people still discovering us, which is nice, and discovering music like us. I think that just about playing, I mean, I think with the reason we identify with the roots and folk and Americana is that people play their instruments. They have to represent by playing.
That's
So
right.
the skill they accomplish. I mean, T-Bone Burnett, come on, that guy has produced more beautiful artists and played more beautiful music. So that's great.
And he was produced by Colin Linden, which is really cool.
Well, they go back and forth, right?
Yeah.
T-Bone produces Colin produces him. Yeah.
Very
Good
cool.
old Colin.
I want to thank you for this. A last question, just an aside. If asked to, are you comfortable touring in the United States of America over the next 4 years?
Of course. I honestly think that, I mean, obviously, it was a huge shock to me that man won. I don't understand how anyone could feel like he was an appropriate choice for president. But I also think, okay, well, this is it. Now you get everything you want. Here are all the people in place. So let's see what you do to America for 4 years, because you have there's no hindrance to your programs. And we'll see if people get what they want. I mean, if you believe in democracy, you believe that this can happen because it was democratically elected. And it's a horror show, but not one we haven't seen. It doesn't feel nearly as horrifying as the last time.
No.
It's too bad. I really, really liked Kamala.
Yep.
I think it was a choice between hope and despair. So they chose despair. Okay. It's their choice.
Thank you to you. Thank you to your family, your boys, all your kids, and all your family in the room, Colin, etc. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Yeah, Merry Christmas and top of the season. Always nice to see you and always nice to talk to you, Terry. And I wish good health for next number of months.
And finally, there's no truth to the rumor that you're joining the Trans-Canada Highwaymen?
They can't. Where are they going to put me? The stage is full. Stage is full.
Thank you, Jim.
All right. Bye, Terry.